Everybody, thanks for tuning in. Today we're going to be reviewing the New Balance 880 running shoe. This is the first New Balance shoe I've ever run with. It is a neutral running shoe. It's considered to have moderate cushioning. It has a 10 millimeter drop, right? So the heel's 10 millimeters higher than the forefoot. It cost $130 and it was true to size. So New Balance touts the 880 as a workhorse running shoe that's good for all types of runners, new to experience, and suits all different types of runs, whether long and slow or short and fast. One interesting thing I learned about the New Balance numbering system, so this 880 is a neutral stability, medium cushioning. The 1080 is neutral stability, but it has more cushioning. Meanwhile, the 860 is for people who need more stability, especially if you overpronate. Now this is the version 10. The version 11 just came out, and according to the website New Balance, the only difference between the 10 and the 11 is a new and improved soft knit upper, which is actually going to be a good thing because we'll talk about that later when we get into the ride. But really the main focus of my reviews is to talk about how well the shoe holds up over 300 miles, and the sole and cushioning is the same in the 10 as the new 11, so this review will be just as applicable to this version 11. One thing that stands out about the 880 from the other shoes I've been running with is this low cut ankle collar. I've got a Mizuno Wave Rider here. You can see the difference in the way that the cut on that ankle collar, and so when I first put it on, I knew it was gripping me in a different area. It actually felt a little uncomfortable. It's a bit of a pet peeve of mine. I don't like it when I have thick ankle collars, and so I knew it was gripping me in a different spot. And then when it wasn't until I compared other shoes, I realized I actually thought it was gripping me higher, but it's gripping me lower. But I will tell you, after about 25 miles, I never noticed it again. Now, as far as this tongue on this shoe, that's probably the other big difference. It is long. It is a long tongue, and it's thick. And it actually ended up causing a little bit of a hot spot when it first wore. I say hot spot, it's not anything I ever had to tend to, maybe a lukewarm spot, right? And again, it was only after about 25 miles, I never noticed that again. So one thing about this longer, thicker tongue, and the way this ankle collar is shaped, is it really does lock you in. You are not going to slip out of this shoe. Sometimes I like to cheat. I can use a shoehorn and get in and out of some of my other running shoes without having to untie them, but you're not going to be able to get away with that with the New Balance. So with that tighter, snugger fit, and kind of the thickness I felt, and the lack of breathability on this mesh upper, I almost felt like my foot sometimes felt claustrophobic, and so the fact that they've changed that and made it lighter and more breathable in the version 11 can only be a positive. So when I tried the shoe on in the store, I thought it felt great. I took it home, and I usually do a walk. This is my first wearing for any new shoes, and we did the dog walk, and I came back and I thought maybe I made a mistake. I didn't like the way the ankle collar was gripping me, and the shoe just kind of felt a little tight and claustrophobic. But then I took it for a run, and it was a totally different experience. What impressed me the most was the responsiveness and spring that I felt from this shoe, because I'd listened to other reviews and other folks I knew who wore it, and nobody else talked about that, but it was very apparent for me. And the best thing was that spring and reflexivity stayed with these shoes pretty much through all 300 miles. Now, I like to put up the graphs, so there you can see the reflexivity. We just had a little bit of a drop about mile 220, which ironically the last review I did, the Brooks Ghost, was also at about mile 220 when I first noticed a little drop off in that one. But as far as the cushioning on this, I like the cushion a lot. I actually felt it got a bit squishier as time went on. Maybe I got more used to it. I don't normally notice that in a shoe, but that's what I felt. So as you can see again from the graph, if we put the cushioning up there, I felt it actually increased a little bit. And while it didn't bother me at all, for me, squishy isn't a good thing. But in all, I really did like the cushioning, because if you compare it to the Brooks Ghost or the On Cloud Surfer, which this has a little bit more, which I liked, but it didn't have as much as I found in the Asics Cumulus or the Diodor's fly hip. So it's right in my sweet spot. But you may be wondering how it compares to the Mizuno Wave Rider, which is really over the years probably been the one shoe I've always had in my rotation. Well, I inadvertently did a blind test. Got up early one morning, went for a run, reached in the shoebox, and yes, I went running with one New Balance and one Mizuno Wave Rider. If it's dark out, you could mistake them. And did a 6-mile run, came back, kicked them off in the garage because they were kind of wet, and it wasn't until the next day I realized what I'd done. So there's no discernible difference between the Wave Rider and the New Balance 880. The last thing I'll note about the ride with these 880s is I do most of my, maybe 85% on my running at about a 9-minute mile. And these shoes, they had a real sweet spot. I've noticed it with some other shoes, but this one seemed to want me to run about an 8-minute 30-second mile, and seemed consistent throughout. It's kind of strange in that regard, but a good thing, right? That it really seemed to have a very comfortable feel for me at that particular speed. Now, if you look at the bottom after 300 miles, again, I'm a heel striker, and it's quite evident the wear on the heel. If you can see it from the side, that heel cap, I would say I've probably worn out 3/4 of it. A little bit of wear on the forefoot, but I will say, despite that, the wear and all, it's the grip and stability felt just as good at mile 300 as it did at mile 1. As far as how many more miles I think you can get on it, maybe another 100 miles on this, and I will have then certainly worn through the heel cap. So to summarize, I'm a big fan of the 880. The responsiveness, reflexivity was much better than anything I had anticipated or really experienced with other shoes. It held up great for 300 miles. The one area I felt could be improved upon is what they did improve upon in the version 11. And as far as getting your money's worth, I got 300 miles, maybe another 100, but then it'll be time to get a new one. Well, thanks so much for tuning in. If you liked the video, if you found it helpful at all, please give it a thumbs up. If you've got your own experience with the 880, please consider putting in the comments section below. So it's always good for folks to hear what other people think of the shoes. Thanks so much for watching. Exercise, explore, enjoy, and race the nation. On this rendition of Stupid Things to Argue About with Your Wife, it's the number of stones needed to make the mouth on a snowman. Now, obviously, the width of the snowman's head will play a factor, but no matter what, I still think 3 is sufficient. Dorothy strongly disagrees. She thinks you need at least a minimum of 4, and she also argues, and it's a valid point, that stones are free, and so there's really no limit to the number of stones needed to make the snowman. Me, I'm a bit more of a minimalist. I do prefer the 3, though you can't go wrong with a 4. However, we did find out that the snowman did not like it when we kept arguing in front of him.